Welcome back everyone to the channel, and can I please ask everyone to like, share and please subscribe. And today I want to talk about a poll in The Independent that asked the question, if there was an election today, a general election, who would you vote for? Now this is obviously coming off the back of the Conservative Party having a new leader, Kemi, and it reveals that as things stand today, 29% of people would vote for Kemi Conservative Party, 28% Keir Starmer's Labour Party, and 19% for Nigel Farage and the Reformed UK. So it's now the second poll that shows the popular vote is swaying back to the Conservative Party away from the Labour Party. That being said, on far less of the vote that historically the two big parties would be. If we look at elections like Theresa May versus Jeremy Corbyn, it was well into the 30s and 40s for Theresa May. And if we look at the election between Jeremy Corbyn and Boris Johnson, it was like 50% and 40%. So the two big parties are in massive, massive trouble. But what I'm finding slightly surprising about these polls and why I'm sceptical is that the Reform UK party are pretty much on the same polling as what they was when Nigel Farage became the leader 6 weeks before the general election. Now, if you look at everything that's happened to the Reform Party and the by-elections that it's winning, I think the Reform Party are a lot higher up, and these pollsters can pretty much get the answer on whatever they want when asking these questions and where they ask these questions. But if we look at the top two parties, it's very interesting that Keir Starmer seems to have only lost 5% off the only 34% he got when he won the general election, and the Conservatives have gained around 4% from where they was at the general election. Now, it's important to note that during David Cameron's second term leading up to that general election, Ed Miliband had been in the lead for pretty much the entire 4 years of him being leader until the general election came. A lot of people are always unhappy with the government that's in at the time, but I don't think we've ever seen anything like what is going on with the Labour government at the time. So it's not surprising to me that the Conservatives have took a slight lead. And I also think that although in the past it's been the incumbent party that seems to take the lead near the end, I think with some of Kemi Bagenog's policies, it would actually be the Conservatives that vote would go up near into the election. But what does this mean for the Reform UK party? Now, if we take the individuals out, the Reform UK party for me stands for far, far more on what I believe in and what a lot of people who watch this channel believe in, and would certainly get my vote. But the problem for Nigel Farage is that the Conservative Party have a new leader who speaks very, very differently than previous Conservative Party leaders. So we take a look at things like the trans issue. Kemi Bagenog has long spoke against the trans agenda. She spoke against having shared bathrooms. She's very much for women's safe places where a transgender woman, who is really a man, wouldn't be able to just wander in anywhere where women don't feel safe. She's obviously very much against things like the LGBT flag being on the NHS. There's an article speaking about that on her very own website. So I believe that a lot of what she stands for, especially with the trans and being against operations on children, would come to the forefront and is definitely going to hit the Reform UK hard. Now, the Conservative Party as a whole, Nigel Farage, I think, is correct that the brand is broken, but Nigel Farage is living proof that when people vote, they tend to vote more for an individual than they do for a party. That's why when Nigel Farage is the leader of the Reform Party, it takes it to the next level. So please let me know what you think Kemi Bagenog means for Nigel Farage and hopes of winning the 2029 election. But the fear also for the Conservatives is, even if the popular vote goes up, the Reform UK will still get far, far too many votes for them in a lot of the seats that they need to win. Let's not forget the Labour Party have 164 majority in the House of Commons. So even if they lost 5% to the Conservatives, it's very unlikely that the Conservatives, with only 30% of the vote, 29%, would likely make up anywhere near the amount of seats that it would now need in order to form a government. It needs around 200 more seats than what it's got to have a majority government, and that would only be a very slim majority government at that. Now, the answer for me, and I know this isn't very popular, is that there is some type of alliance between a Conservative Party that is more right-leaning than it seems to be under Kemi and the Reform UK Party. If you put those two parties together, the polling comes out at 48%, and it's probably really more. And yes, of course, there would be some people from the Conservative Party who may not like the idea of Nigel Farage, but let's be honest, the Conservative Party of the last 25% that it got at the general election is probably not left with many of those people. They have probably already long gone to the Lib Dems or the Labour Party. And there is a lot of people in the Conservative Party that you wouldn't feel easy with joining up. But believe it or not, as the Reform Party gets bigger, those individuals will find their way into the Reform Party, just like they did in UKIP. So for me, I think this is evident that some type of an alliance between Kemi and Nigel Farage needs to take place. And remember this, if that alliance didn't work out, there's nothing set in stone that it must stay forever. It doesn't mean the two parties need to merge together. But what I think needs to happen, this is something that Jason Rees-Mogg talks about a lot, is that the seats where the Conservatives cannot win, I think the Reform Party needs to challenge those seats. It's basically as easy as saying whoever came second in the last general election, put everything behind that person. Now, that would make a big difference, I understand, on the popular vote from both parties, but just like in America, where you win with the electoral college, the popular vote means very, very little in the United Kingdom. But please let me know what you think of the polls out at the moment. What do you think is Kemi as the new leader? Do you think that she is better than Richie Sunak? Do you think that a lot of what she talks about is just in order to win the membership over, and she will be a One Nation Conservative just like Richie Sunak, Theresa May and David Cameron, and even Boris Johnson to an extent? And what do you think this means, having Kemi as the leader of the Conservative Party? What does that mean for certainly my favourite party, which is the Reform UK Party? Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.